Welcome back everyone. Let's go ahead and do a comparison between the Google Pixel 5a and newly released against the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE. Now the S20 FE was a budget phone that Samsung made last year, and it was a pretty good phone. I actually liked it a lot, had a lot of character, a lot of capability, and it was a budget version of the Galaxy S20. Now the Pixel 5a, in some ways I guess it's supposed to be a budget version of the Pixel 5, but it actually does beat that phone in a couple areas, which is really interesting. Now if you want to pick up either one of these phones, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now starting off with the front, the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE has that 6.5-inch AMOLED display. Now it's a 1080p panel, so very similar to the Pixel 5a, but the S20 FE has that 120Hz refresh rate, and that is a humongous advantage for that phone. Having that type of capability is just future-proofing yourself like crazy, and the Pixel 5a only has 60Hz, but the S20 FE, this is without a doubt one of the main advantages of this phone, and why I would probably prefer an S20 FE over the Pixel 5a, at least in the terms of the display standpoint. Now the Pixel 5a has that 6.34-inch 1080p panel, so a little bit of a smaller panel. It is a hole punch display, and it is also an OLED display. And here's the other thing, with the Pixel 5a, I like the design of the Pixel 5a more in terms of the front. I like how there's a little bit less of a boxy design, more of like a circular design like the Pixel 5, where the S20 FE looks more like a Note on the front, kind of like a hybrid between a Note and an S series. So I think with the Pixel 5a it looks better, but the S20 FE has a much better panel for sure. Now the S20 FE has USB Type-C, they both have headphone jacks, which is really cool. They both have IP certification as well, which is really awesome. And the chassis of the phone, I would definitely say, goes to the S20 FE. That phone feels like a little bit more of an expensive phone. But on the back, the S20 FE has a plastic back, where the 5a actually has, I guess, a metal back. But I would definitely say the 5a feels a little bit more premium on the back standpoint, but they both aren't really that far off. The 5a has this like plasticky kind of material. It doesn't feel rubberized, it just feels a little bit different. I don't know how to explain it. The S20 FE feels a little bit frosted, which feels really nice, and I actually like that a lot. So in terms of the front, I may give the edge to the S20 FE. I may give the back the edge to the 5a, but I think overall, the design-wise, I actually like the design of the Pixel 5a. There's just something about that phone that kind of looks good, and I think it does look like a better phone over the S20 FE. But a big difference between both phones is that the S20 FE actually has a microSD card slot. So that's a massive advantage as you have on a phone like that. You can go and get that phone on the base model storage and expand that storage to whatever you want to. The 5a doesn't have that capability. Is that a big deal? It really just comes up to you. Do you prefer having, that type of storage expansion? If you do, then the S20 FE is for you. If not, the 5a should be good enough for a majority of you too. Now hitting on the cameras, this is another massive difference as well. Now Samsung, I think, always makes the best cameras. Google may actually take that, standard this year if the Pixel 6 is really that great. Now with the S20 FE, you have a 12 megapixel wide angle lens, an 8 megapixel telephoto lens, then a 12 megapixel ultra wide sensor, where the Google Pixel 5a has a 12.2 megapixel wide angle lens, then a 16 megapixel ultra wide sensor. So you are getting an additional telephoto lens on the S20 FE. In my personal opinion, I like having that telephoto lens, but if you have a really good ultra wide sensor, then you'll pretty much be okay for the most part. Now you have the capability of shooting 4K at 60 on both, so that's a really cool advantage on both, and I may still give the edge to the S20 FE here. I like having that additional sensor, but here's the other thing. There's just something about Samsung. They just throw all of their features that they have on that camera, and although I like the minimalistic approach as the Pixel 5a's camera has, I do like how Samsung just throws all these types of different features on their, specific phone. Even if the quality is a little bit better on the 5a, I like having that more customizability on the S20 FE, so I will give a little bit of an advantage and a little bit of leeway in that standpoint, but the 5a still has a really good camera, and I'm actually pretty happy about it. Now the front is the bigger difference. The S20 FE, 32 megapixel front facing camera, where you can do 4K at 60 videos. The 5a can only do 1080p video. Now that's another kind of disadvantage for the 5a. They have a pretty decent back-facing camera, but the front camera really isn't that great. So that's another pretty big thing to keep in mind. I'm a fan of both phones, but I'm pretty sure with the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE, you are getting a little bit of a better camera than the Google Pixel 5a. But the 5a's camera is still pretty good for sure. So in terms of camera, that covers it up there. Now here goes probably one of the best advantages for picking up a Google Pixel 5a or any Pixel over a Samsung, and that is the software. Right now, Samsung, as you guys know, they expanded their software lifecycle, so most phones from Samsung are actually getting an extra year's support and security updates as well, so that's a pretty cool advantage. The Pixel 5a, I'm going to tell you though, I like that software more than One UI. Even though One UI has a lot of features and a lot of different things built in, the Pixel 5a with stock Android is still I think it is the best version of Android still. It surpassed Oxygen OS recently and Color OS, so I think, definitely the Pixel 5a wins here. I like One UI sometimes. If you throw on a launcher and kind of move on from there, it's good. But the Pixel 5a, there's just no comparison. And on top of that, day one updates. So whenever the next version of Android comes out officially, that phone is going to support it day one instead of waiting for your carrier and all that stuff. But on top of that, custom ROMs are also going to be available for the Pixel 5a once more people get their hands on it. So that's another pretty cool advantage. 10 years from now, we probably may still be talking about the Pixel 5a, where people are going to be probably not talking about the S20 FE anymore. So that's a big thing to keep in mind. And another really cool kind of difference between these two phones, but they're very similar, is the battery life. The Samsung Galaxy S20 FE actually has a 4500 mAh battery, where the Pixel 5a has a 4680 mAh battery. So both these phones are pretty good in the battery standpoint. I think the 5a is going to be better, but here's the thing with the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE, you actually have wireless charging and reverse wireless charging on that phone. So that's a massive thing to keep in mind. When you get a phone like the S20 FE, you're going to be having a little bit better of an experience with more battery features there, but the Pixel 5a may get you better battery life. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So in terms of that covers it up there. Now ending it off with the speed. The Galaxy S20 FE had that Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 chipset with 8 gigs of RAM on the top tier model and 6 gigs of RAM on the mid tier model or the bottom tier models, where the Pixel 5a has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 765G chipset with 6 gigs of RAM. Now, I think from my experience, I think the Pixel 5a is a pretty fast phone. I think it pretty much got the job done. Anything I really did with it recently, speed comparison-wise, comparing it to a bunch of other phones, including the Galaxy S20, I think the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE, I think the Google Pixel 5a is a pretty speedy phone. I think it's a pretty fast phone for sure, even though it has the watered-down chipset. But the thing is that the S20 FE, not only did it have the flagship chipset of last year, if you get those, upper tier models, you're going to be getting more RAM. But the other thing is that the Galaxy S20 FE with that 120Hz refresh rate feels like not only a faster phone, but a more premium feeling phone. I don't know what it is with the Pixel 5a, but there is a lot of choppiness going around, which is weird because it's stock Android. The Pixel 5 with that 90Hz panel didn't really feel as choppy as my Pixel 5a. Like I mentioned, same exact chipset, it's just one has 90Hz and the other one has 60Hz. The Samsung Galaxy S20 FE has a 120Hz panel, so that's going to make it a little bit of a better experience, at least in terms of the speed aspect and making things seem fast. And I mentioned this before, if you gave me a phone that's a little bit slower than another one, but one has that 120Hz refresh rate and one has 60Hz, you are going to feel like that 120Hz phone is the faster one. That's just the way it goes. So when it comes down to both of these, I like both. I feel like the Galaxy S20 FE though is the faster one when it comes down to it, but I feel like the Pixel 5a is still actually a pretty fast phone, and I'm not really complaining about the performance of either one of these, so that kind of covers it up there. Now to kind of sum up this video and to answer the question, should you go and buy a Samsung Galaxy S20 FE or should you go and buy a Google Pixel 5a? Well, this is what I'll tell you. For sure, in the brand new market, the best bang per dollar right now, I think, is the Pixel 5a. This is a very good phone. It's super capable, stock Android, bigger battery than the S20 FE, better battery life, still a pretty good camera, and you're getting stock Android, and I feel like the software in and of itself is one of its best selling features. But with the S20 FE, this feels more like a flagship. That 120Hz refresh rate is amazing, definitely a better camera setup for both the front and the back in my opinion. You're getting a microSD card slot, you're getting wireless charging and reverse wireless charging as well, which is another cool feature for the Galaxy S20 FE. And I think overall the S20 FE feels more like a flagship than maybe like, the Google Pixel 5a. But the 5a is not supposed to be a flagship. It's supposed to be that mid-tier model that you go ahead and, consider a budget tier model and you buy it, because it's a cheaper phone. You're not really missing out on too much with the 5a. And I think the 5a is the better value per dollar, but the Galaxy S20 FE is probably the better phone. With that being said, I think I would probably end up picking up a Pixel 5a because of its software. I love that phone. I love the stock Android approach, and I love having that capability from these phones. So in terms of that covers it up. If you guys want to pick these things up, like I mentioned, links are down below. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section as well. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.